Hi. So today I'm going to have a conversation about the dual life, which is what you think. Excuse me, let me do a little. Of course, there's lots of different ideas about what the dual life means. And what we're talking about is having a spiritual life with the energy of love empowered in us, and a human life, the illusionary life, the personality life, without that empowerment. Now, that sounds contradictory because it seems like sort of an either or situation. You got love and empowering, and you're one of those guys, or you got none. But it isn't that way, because love is ever present, everywhere, all the time. And it leaks in wherever it can because it's a consistently dynamic, creative energy coming straight out of life. And we can access it and make use of it and convert the human life on the planet into something unbelievably fantastic. Or we can ignore it the way we've been doing for the last million years and limp along with one catastrophe and failing civilization after another. And because we're in a failing civilization at the moment, with the world rushing around trying to figure out what to do to get itself back on stable ground, but there is no stable ground until we complete this commitment to the dual life of transforming humanity into a love-based civilization. We're almost there. Not at the completion of that, but almost at the beginning of that. There are those working hard in society right now. Sorry, I got some crumbs on my hand. Working hard in society right now to do exactly that. And there are spiritual beings on the planet, the hierarchical life, who are working 24/7 to do that. And then, of course, there are those who serve evil and work steadily to keep love from becoming an increasingly important dynamic in human consciousness. This is the human stage, and this is the place upon which all of us who are in a human incarnation walk and strut our little story upon the stage for our short personality cycle. Now, let's take a look at this for a minute, because what's important about the dual life is that it is not that one is better than the other. There is no such thing in the real universe. In reality, love is good. It's great. It's fantastic. It's a quality of life that makes everything unbelievably good. But until you are capable, having experienced all the other necessary experiences without it, to be able to choose it, it's unavailable to us. So it's necessary that we practice life without love so that we can come to the place where we can practice life with love. And that makes them both equally important, both equally interesting in their own unique way. Now, why humanity does not have love automatically going on in its empowerment and consciousness is a story we're going to take up for another time. But it is embedded in legend, and it goes back further than any of us can possibly imagine. So let's just set that aside for a minute, and the Luciferian ideas and all the other stuff that makes it a mythology based on a reality. And let's talk about what it's going to be as we take on love and how we are going to do that, because that's the place we are. Now, there may not be room in your life today, just this one day, for you to consciously access the power of love in you. But until you give that time to that power and invite it in, it's going to continue to recede in the future. So it's okay to stop and take a look and think, okay, maybe this is a good place in my history to start including the power of love in my choices, in my life, in the consequential existence that I live. And if you do it, and I do it, and some others do it, then pretty soon those around us begin to see the impact of that on our lives. And they begin to say, what the heck you got going on? What are you doing that I'm not doing? You go, well, maybe, just maybe, I'm working on the duality of a life fully surrendered to the impact of love and a life that doesn't have virtually any real love going on in it, just imitation. Maybe I'm blending those two together. Now, in a spiritual community, the hierarchical, esoteric community, that condition where it becomes one in us is called the third initiation, which we're not going to talk about much because the whole concept of initiations and what they mean and how they impact humanity and other large beings of consciousness is not the subject today. But when we achieve that initiation, when we have reached the place where we consciously realize that life without love is stupid, it's just not going to be beautiful. It's not going to be truthful. It's not going to be loving because it's a power, and it's a power that when it moves through us creates beauty and truth and loving. So we need that. And until we choose it, until we consciously decide that that's an energy of life that we're going to make available inside our nature, inside our emotional body, inside our mental body, and inside our physical body, in other words, our entire personality structure, then it won't be there because we have free will. And our free will has been trained from ancient days to ignore this quality of life. It just wasn't a color in our rainbow. It wasn't something we could choose. You can have all the other colors you want, but the color of love, that's not on the rack. But now it is. Now we have come to a place where a significant portion of humanity is at a place, and by significant, I don't mean great numbers. I mean enough to make the change. That's what makes it significant. A significant number of human beings are choosing that, are looking for it, are interested in it. And that's all it takes to get it started, because where our interest goes, where our attention goes, where our desire nature goes, that's where we follow with the things that we're going to be expressing in our life soon. Now, it has some complications based on the time we have ignored it and the ego we've created void of it, and various other propositions that have to be taken up in the discussion of how to go about this process. It's not just a switch you flip. So, and that process we have workshops on in the Love Foundry, and it's not a complicated workshop. A child can do it. But it is difficult because we have things in us that we have developed that resist love. If you want to know how much love is resisted, just take something truly beautiful and put it out in an open field and see how long it is before it's destroyed. Not by weather, by us. We have this thing in us built from ancient days, which has a hatred of love, which is all hatred is an absence of love. And it wants to retain its sense of control over our personality ego. So where it sees love, it reaches out and claws it. It disfigures it. It damages it. It dominates it to prove that that nature, that negative nature in us is superior to beauty, or superior to gentleness, or harmlessness, or any of the qualities or aspects that love produces. But of course, it's not superior to it. It's just a love adjacent, if you want to think of it that way. And when love comes in and is taken over in the human heart and insists on eliminating those things which are anti-love, then we begin to conform more and more to a love-based expression, and discovering that we can get anything that we need or truly want without hatred, without negativity, without destruction, then we opt to give it up because it serves no great and lasting purpose. Unless you're ending something and want to reinvest it back to source and start over again. Now, the remarkable thing about this is that you don't need to choose either or, except in small cases. Today I see something and I choose to love it. Tomorrow I see something else and I choose not to love that. I don't love certain things are hard to love because we're learning that love requires us eventually to love everything, because that's how you fix it. And the thing we didn't know about that is that love has a power in it. It has a number of powers in it. But the power that it has in it that's amazing is the power of transformation, coupled with the power of transmutation. And when that surfaces in the experience, evil becomes good. The negativity becomes positivity by the impact of love filling whatever that is with the addition of love, which transforms and transmutes and unifies and brings grace to the moment. And this can produce anything from turning water into wine, as it did with Jesus, or healing the lepers, or any one of a number of magnificent things that love can do with its powers. And the transformation of the entire human nature, our nature, into a loving expression of great, great power is one of them. No one doubts, well, not no one, let's be clear, somebody doubts anything. But most would not doubt the power of love to stand in its own space and own itself, that nothing can touch it. Nothing can get close enough to harm it because the outflowing waves of love cause this transformation and transmutation upon contact with all evil. So learning this is a lifetime lesson, many lifetime lesson. If you choose reincarnation as a philosophy of existence, you're going to find that human beings have been moving along the path of growth in intelligence and will and love for countless centuries. And on that path, love has been a gradually but certainly increasing, steadily growing possibility for us to activate and take in and have it become in our core individuality, our core identity, protected through free will at the core of us. It is finally beginning to penetrate and enter there. And it is this remarkable experience, the thing that happened in Christianity's case, it happened to Jesus when he was baptized by John. Something happened that no one really expected to have happen. Baptism connects us emotionally with the being towards which the baptism is being subscribed. Now, John was baptizing people for a Jewish living religion, but Christ was a different thing. It wasn't Christ in that religion. The arbitrator of decisions about spiritual being belonged to Jehovah, or other names that are made for this being. And so the idea that love itself, the supreme quality of the universe as a being, would enter into Jesus personally and become a cohabiter with him in humanity was really something unexpected. But yet it did that. And he the miracle of his ability is that he could sustain it. If you think if you were at that time, which is 2,000 years ago in the Middle East, if you could take love itself as an entity and have it enter into you and take possession within you of your reality with you, coexist with you, not violating your free will at all. It was his willingness that allowed that entrance. But to have supreme contact and impact on yourself, that is a hugely transformational impact. The fact that he had already reached a stage where that was his absolute desire, his deepest desire was for love and loving humanity and loving in any way he could in the situation to improve it, he could withstand it. And because he had gone through the renunciations of evil, which are the temptations of Christ, and found himself capable of it, successful at it, he didn't rebel against it. Now, that's an enviable situation, but it isn't one that most of us have. Most of us would not give up hatred. Sounds like we would, because who wants to hate? But that's something that has survived with us through countless centuries as a way of living. Because without love, you'd better be strong enough to defend yourself against something trying to kill you or destroy your object of love and caring, like your family or something else, your tribe. And humanity has fought against all things that have tried to destroy it for thousands and thousands of years, but they haven't used love to meet the enemy. They've used an instinctual love, caring for what they care for, to defend against that negative force on their behalf. So we've kind of had a mixed up journey with all of this. And there's a reason for that mixed up journey, but it's one that we can repair. In a sense, we are paralyzed in the area of love in our nature. We might have some idea what it is, but we cannot get its power flowing because we have reasons for that. And part of those are karmic reasons, which if you study the law of karma, it's that which works against us to educate us to that which we have acted against. It's an odd way of putting it, but it's something like that. And we can talk about karma at another time. So this duality that I'm talking about requires a clear insight, clear thinking, clear looking, so that you can see, oh, I could have this. In fact, it's inside me, it's inside of us because it entered us. At that legendary baptism with John and the subsequent healings, it was demonstrated, and at the crucifixion, it was released into the whole human race, all of us. And by now, 2,000 years later, it's become something embedded and growing in every human being. So what can we do about that? Well, we can observe it and we can support it, and we can act on that observation and support with commitment, and it will grow fast. It'll grow like a pine tree inside of us quickly and strongly until it works for us on our behalf and begins to deflect the negativity and transform the hatred and transform the evil into good in such a way that we become walking luminaries with it. Now, there aren't a lot of walking luminaries with it, but there are some. Now, the Catholics call them saints because they've demonstrated a commitment to love that is virtually unbreakable. And we would have to agree, I don't know anything about most of the saints, but some of them, like St. Francis of Assisi, I would have to agree. That's an unbreakable commitment to love. And the demonstration of his life, and he did a lot of healing, by the way. He had a big habit of going and meeting lepers and helping them. So he had a lot going on in the direction of love by his opening of his inner self to the power of it to work through him towards healing and helping those that he came into contact with. And this is based on his absolute certainty of its real existence in him, which you might say that's because of the Christ story that he was a part of in his church, but it's not really. It's that he has grown to a point where he recognized that story was true. And so he could participate with that story or he could reject it. But his consciousness informed him of its truth, and his heart was moved by it being so. You know, this is not an average guy, St. Francis of Assisi. He had a family that was relatively high on the social list, and he'd been to the Crusades, I think, more than once. I don't know what that means because I don't know enough about his life, but I do know that this was a profound man. And then he went through a phase of struggle, which often precedes love in us, where he overcame some resistance to it. And when he woke up from that disease, sort of looked like a fever of some kind for a few days. And when he came out of it, he had a vision and a voice that had told him to rebuild the church. So he set about brick by brick rebuilding a local destroyed church. And he went back to how it was done at the original time of Jesus with full commitment to the mission, building a church of love. That was the point that he was doing. And he gathered people around him who joined his mission. And he started the fraternity of St. Francis. And eventually that became, I don't know what they call these inside the church. You have Jesuits and you have others. And one of them is the friars that are St. Francis. Anyway, it's a demonstration of the story of it. And there are many other demonstrations, not all in the church. Some of them have nothing to do with Christianity or religion, but they have to do with people who came to this stage of embracing love and realizing it's one of life's great aspects. And in every human being is a capacity to make that a living expression of themselves, which is pretty amazing and pretty wonderful. So, and it isn't like you turn it on one day, you wake up and go, okay, that's what I am. Now that seems to have happened with Paul, one of the apostles, when he's on the road to Damascus, and to turn in a bunch of Christians to have them stoned to death and other things like that. And this light explodes in his head, and he hears this voice that wants to know, why are you punishing me? Speaking of his spiritual side or his soul nature. And that convinced him in that instant of the truth, because it had been bothering him. Something was wrong with what he was doing and he couldn't quite figure it out. And science will tell you that the pineal gland and the pituitary gland got excited and connected with each other, and that created that unity in him. Well, there's probably a physiological result from all of this. So from then on, he is expressing himself in harmony with love and becomes a great disciple of Jesus. So it can happen. It can happen like that, but rarely does. What happens like that is a connection to our faith in its truth, the realization that it's absolutely real. But to become good at it, that takes practice. And that's why we're talking about the dual life, because you're not going to stop being the guy you were, because you're now including love. That's going to happen slowly as you greet each choice of your life with your companion inside of you, helping you, growing you, and working with your free will to convince you which choice is the admirable choice. And because we see the consequences of those who hate love overruling and overriding people who don't have it as a power in them, a conscious power that they can connect with. We tend to think love is weak. But if you've got no gunpowder in your bullet, then you can pull the trigger, but there's nothing coming out the barrel. So once love fills you with its power, then something that draws it upon itself will have a very different argument to face. So we gradually grow this in us as we realize it's true. And as it grows in us, our life goes up. Everything about our life, what we're trying to do in the world, and unless what you're trying to do in the world is harming people and you don't care, then maybe love will not act on your behalf because it can't violate other people's free will or other people's health. It doesn't have any interest in doing that. Now, but where the motive is honorable and where healing and helpfulness is embraced, and we have this open door to love inside of us, it starts to flow in and prove itself through our own free will, our own choices, and grow us stronger and stronger and stronger until we become something we had never anticipated. So that's a practical, simple road that you can walk. You can walk the road with love and your loveless ego gradually becoming more loving by a recognition of its power in you, its presence in the universe around you, and your desire for it, or you can ignore it. Every step you take hardens your resistance to love, or whittles away at the resistance you have and opens the door to it. So don't think the step you're taking is neutral. One of the great statements towards love made by the Christ was, "Those who are not for me are against me." And that's expressed in this law. Every step you take, you are repeating your inner ego, your inner structure of how you relate to life. I don't like this. I don't like that. I hate this. I hate that. I'm angry at this. I'm mad at that. I want revenge over that. If you're expressing these things in you, every step you take is hardening the wall between you and love. You're against it. But if you say, I would like to get over revenge of that, I'd like to get over being hostile to those assholes, I'd like to become someone more loving, every time I take a step, that wall is diminishing, becoming thinner, and eventually it becomes smoke and disappears. And you and love are proving yourselves able to do exactly that. But this is not a short journey. For some, it's a difficult and thorny journey based on what we have done in the past. It's a rough one. This is a rough one. One of the spiritual masters said, Earth is the planet of sorrows. And it is truly, in all of the known universe, and to some of the higher spiritual initiates, there's a lot of the universe that's quite well known. Earth is the hardest experience there is. It is truly the planet of sorrows. But graduation from it endows us with perfect love, so that everything we create, everything we do, has perfect love as an automatic expression of its creation. And that, according to that teacher, is worth it, makes it worth it. So we can think about that and look at that, but it won't shorten the journey. We still have to take it, and we have to take it as a group. It might seem like an endless journey to you because new people are being born every day. But if we saw the nature of the universe, we'd realize that we're all being born out of a pool. And when we die, we return to that pool, to the soul level with love, where love rules, and prepare ourselves to do it again. That is the nature of reincarnation, or the repetitive living within a circular circumstance that grows us to a stage where we can move on to the next circle. And so that will eventually be proved or demonstrated or disproved and rejected. So I'm not here to do that. But if you look at the concept of realizing, just as an idea, that there are a certain amount, according to the esoteric world, about 60 billion, which is quite a few, human individualized souls in this cycle of planetary experience, working their way toward fixing this issue with love in the human kingdom. And when we have fixed it, each of us will resolve our part of it, because when you add all the humans together, that is the human kingdom. We're not living just in it like rocks on a beach. We are it, and we are creating it out of ourselves in the likeness that it now is, without love being very demonstrated in it, except maybe in chocolate ice cream or something. But it's a process, and in that process we have power, and that power is to move from personality, nature, rejecting love, not caring about it, not knowing how it works. So we're just, I love you, I love hot dogs. What's the difference? There is a difference, a huge difference. And we have to learn the difference from love, and then we can apply it. So over here is this perfect expression of love, which changes our nature into a, I don't know, I don't think we really have a name for what that is except Christ consciousness. But when perfect love is an automatic expression of a human being, you know that they are something really special. And when we become that, in that union between our individuality and the power of love, this planet will look like something quite different than it does today. Now it's time for us to take up that occupation and begin to think about it and include it in our human experience in a far more direct way than we have been. There has not been a country yet, a civilization yet, that is run by love. It's a very difficult thing to manage a large group of people with all the time. Now, it will happen though. And in the collapsing civilization of today, if you watch the world, you'll see it's struggling to keep the balloon inflated. It's like the middle tent pole in the circus broke, and it's slowly collapsing on everybody. And the dystopian thoughts and feelings we have about the future of the world and all of the pollution and the rejection of good, that's all going on. And it's going on at a level that it's increasing more than we are pushing it back. And that's all because of not using this energy of love in our will, in our inner nature, including it in our root individuality, which has will and intelligence and virtually very little love. So as we increase that love aspect, the power of it in us, it will start to transform and transmute that and push it back, and others will learn how, and eventually this whole thing is going to change. And this is what the great idea of the Aquarian Age is supposed to be something about. And it can do that with the help of that energy, which we're now sailing through space into. Far more knowingness will appear in the culture of the human consciousness, and the belief that we had in the last epoch in Pisces will begin to be converted to knowing. So instead of having a belief in love or a belief in the spiritual life, we begin to know its power, and we begin to know its influence in the world, and we begin to know whether we want to be part of that or whether we want to reject it. Because our free will is ours, and nothing can touch it except us. You can put a gun to someone's head and say, get on your knees, and they might do it to preserve their life, but you didn't change them. They know what their will is. They know what their free will wants. But you can't say, I want you to never want freedom. No, there's no slave that doesn't want freedom. There's those that can be psychologically damaged so much that they're afraid of it, but they will grow back to it. And this is one of the mercies of death and recycling. Because when we come back, we can take another fresh breath and start over again and maybe learn a lesson that we lost or maybe learn a lesson that we hated. There are those who are the oppressors and there are those who are oppressed. They are the same. You can't have one without the other, can you? So we have to learn both sides of that lesson, that neither the oppressor nor the oppressed, but that the one who loves is what's real. The one who loves is all that's real. That's what reality is. It's reality because love is in it. It's already there. It's like gravity. It's here. Now, you may have never noticed it, and you may have never applied it to yourself and turned it into something that you use, but it's there. Okay. Now, what else do we need to know about love? I don't have my sidekicks today, so I can't get their point of view about it. But let's see, maybe one of them is around. No, I put out a notice, but it's Sunday, so things get busy with people on Sunday. Yeah. Anyway, it's here. So look around. Stars and wonders are going to appear in the sky and so on, because love is here. And if you wonder what makes miracles happen, it's the invisible science that love is. There are things that trigger it and release it into the experience in someone's healing or in some event that seems to transcend logic or quantum physics or things. See, we're at the edge of it. We're now pushing into the boundary where we're going past material limitations. And the material limitations of the material universe, which we see looking out into space and see on our planet, that is only the bottom part. That's the bottom 1/7 of the cosmic physical universe. And all the mediums and levels up above that are filled with beings of greater consciousness than we have, they live love. They have learned that lesson and they don't rebel and reject it. Down on the material world, where rocks and emotions and lower mental brain consciousness is, there's no recognition by the matter itself, the atoms and beings that live in that material field. They don't register a conscious appreciation of love. Neither does humanity, except for a very small percentage at this stage of it. But it's growing. And as it grows, the illusion of life not having any love in it, which a rock doesn't show you a lot of it, even though it's there in the rock. It makes minerals happen. It makes diamonds and rubies and sapphires and amethysts, and those jewels appear. But we don't see it's working. And neither do the atoms of those minerals see it working any more than a honeybee knows how it's producing honey. It just simply is converting flower nectar into honey. Amazing. It's a miracle of its own digestion, I guess. So as we become conscious of this advent, then we realize that's what makes religions. Religions are the idea of, oh, we discovered that this love is real. Now, how do we make it more real with us? Well, that's what Jesus was talking about. It's like, okay, this is real and it can do these wonderful things. And you have it inside of you and it's not going away. So how do you make it more real than it already is? Well, that's the point at which the conversations kind of ended in his case, as the people said, you know, we don't want to hear about this because it's interfering with what we're up to. But it didn't silence it, did it? It went internally, it went underground, and it started working all over the world. And to this day, it isn't about the religion of Christianity. It's about the love that is growing in the human heart. And when the science of love is beginning to be discussed, then perhaps a new religion will start. And it will be about how to scientifically demonstrate this. But it will still come down to the psychology of the human being, who chooses with his free will to increase that in our inner nature. And that means you have to isolate it, you have to identify it, you have to invite it, you have to take control of the ego that rebels against it because it's never been trained with it. and you have to take constant action towards it. You have to have commitment to it. Commitment is not a word, it's an enormous power. It's what releases nature to join you in your quest. Because until you tell nature that I'm looking for the golden fleece, I'm searching for this, I want this, then nature doesn't know that. And your free will doesn't invite it to join you in your trek. But the moment you declare a commitment to that, you release agencies and things are available that were never created before that moment. This is an aspect of love. So, like Jason and the Golden Fleece, you're on your way to finding and securing that which you want. And nature is going to help you in ways you never imagined, never could have anticipated, simply because you're committed. Now, how does that work? Well, we learn how it works as we apply it in our life and discover it to be true. But without commitment, you will never find that truth or that support and help or reach the golden fleece. Because every trial on the journey is going to require new understanding and new cooperation with the invisible nature that surrounds us. Now, what else do we need to know about this fabulous journey we're on? Well, for today, that's enough. Thank you very much for taking the time to look at the dual life, the one we have now with our personality and our limitations of ego, and the perfect love that could join and transform us completely. Now, you might think there's nothing out there at love's end of this story, but so complete is the illusion of the little life that we're living as the ego, the personality, the human nature, that we don't even see the soul life that we already own and possess in the kingdom of love. You actually have a third of your identity secured there. You built it on the way in a long time ago. And beyond that entity, at a further, higher, deeper level, is spirit itself, your spirit, the spirit that makes you unique, that gave you a permanent identity in this journey. So we're growing not only into this duality of us and love, us and the soul nature in us that is animated by love, but that and a third nature, which is the power of spirit, which, while it might move in our lives, is quite difficult to control. So we have a long journey ahead, but this is the one in which we're going to take love and include it in the human part and transform that throughout the entire human race. We're going to transform the entire human kingdom into one that is animated by reality, which means being animated by will and intelligence and love. All three. And eventually love will grow so matured in us, so strong in us, that we will be then ready for a new aspect of life, which we have no name for today, except perhaps freedom. Join us again and we'll continue this conversation in consciousness about empowering love. And if you want to workshop with us, come on over. Talk to you later. Thank you very much.